Hi, I'm Denise, and I want to share a story about how my mother-in-law's true colors were revealed, and how I stood up to her. So, when are you getting that inheritance, Denise? I heard it's around $50 million. Just think about the incredible life we could live with that money. This is taking forever. Since the day I married Joe, his mother, Mary, never stopped bringing up my supposed inheritance. I had casually mentioned my plans for the future, never expecting it to turn into such an obsession for her. At first, she was friendly, but her endless questions soon became tiresome. Joe and his father, Michael, tried to get her to stop, telling her the money wasn't her concern and that we were already living comfortably. But Mary wouldn't let it go. She was determined the money would elevate our lifestyle, suggesting we sell the house and buy a mansion. I hinted that the inheritance might not even be real, which caused some chuckles from everyone except Mary. She stared at me with a look of pure disdain. After that, she changed completely. She became cold, rude, and insulted me at every opportunity. I suspected she was furious with me for not living up to her greedy expectations, but I had no idea what lengths she would go to. When Mary discovered I wasn't some wealthy heiress, but an ordinary middle-class woman, she lost it, and 2 months later, she did something I never imagined. It was a quiet day, with Joe and Michael away on a fishing trip. I was in the middle of working on my laptop when Mary, wearing a nasty expression, approached me in the kitchen. She demanded I follow her to her room immediately, saying it was urgent. I asked her why, but she brushed off my questions, insisting I come with her. I had no idea what she wanted, but something in the back of my mind told me it wasn't good. I reluctantly followed her upstairs. Once inside her room, she locked the door behind us and pocketed the keys. Stunned, I asked her what she was doing. Mary calmly explained that she wasn't letting me leave until I signed some papers. Confused, I asked what papers she was talking about. That's when she revealed a postnuptial agreement, drawn up by a lawyer, that she wanted me to sign. It stated that in the event of a divorce, I wouldn't be entitled to any of Joe's assets. I was speechless. I refused to sign, telling her that Joe and I weren't planning on divorcing. Well, Denise, she sneered, we'll see about that. For now, do me a favor and sign these papers. Take your time reading them, but it won't change a thing. I'm not letting you out until it's done. I took the papers and quickly glanced through them. My anger boiled over as I saw the terms. Neither Joe nor I would be entitled to each other's assets or alimony in case of a divorce. I confronted her. Mary, what is this? Joe and I never talked about a prenup or postnup. Why now? Mary didn't hesitate. Because things have changed. I expected you to inherit $50 million, so a prenup seemed pointless back then, but now that I know that's not happening, I'm not going to let my son be financially tied to someone like you. Sign this postnup, and I'll make sure Joe leaves you. I was stunned. So, all this time, you only cared about my money. Now that you know it's not real, you want me to give up my rights to Joe's assets? How are you going to convince him to go along with this? I'll come up with something, Mary said coldly. I can't let my son stay married to someone without money. He needs a wealthy wife, so our family can live in luxury. I didn't raise him for years just to have him marry a financial burden. I stood firm. Joe doesn't care that I don't have a massive inheritance. Mary, you're the only one who does. Well, I care, Denise. I care if you don't have a substantial inheritance. I let my son marry you because I thought you'd contribute to a better life for us. Now it seems like you'll ruin everything by making him support you. Hearing Mary's cold words filled me with anger, but I also felt relieved. If I hadn't revealed the truth about the inheritance, I would have never seen just how manipulative she really was. Now I understood why Joe and Michael were always cautious around her. She was driven by greed and self-interest. I doubted Joe even knew about this postnuptial agreement she wanted me to sign, but I could tell she wasn't letting me leave without my signature. To keep calm, I reluctantly said, I don't want to sign a postnup. Mary, I have to protect myself too. If Joe really wants one, we'll talk about it with lawyers. I'm not signing anything you've put together without discussing it. Her face hardened. Listen, Denise, I'm not letting you out of here until you sign these papers. I can wait all day. Joe and Michael won't be back for hours, and I know your boss is calling you to get back to work. Feeling cornered, I finally gave in, saying, give me the key. I need to get back to work. This is enough. Mary's response was violent. She grabbed my hand, twisting it painfully, and began yelling about me being a gold-digging witch. My anxiety spiked as my phone rang incessantly. My boss trying to reach me, overwhelmed. I signed the papers just to get out of there. Mary, smug and satisfied, unlocked the door and let me leave. I rushed to my room, locked myself in, and immediately called my boss to explain the nightmare I'd just gone through. She was horrified and told me to take time off if I needed it. After the encounter, I documented the bruise forming on my wrist, taking pictures as evidence. The longer I stared at it, the more enraged I became. Mary had crossed a line, and I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. Still, I decided not to ruin Joe and Michael's fishing trip by calling them right away. Instead, I waited for them to return. When they came back the next day, they were in good spirits, oblivious to the tension that had built up between Mary and me. Joe quickly noticed something was wrong. When he asked about it, I told him I needed time to process things. Mary, seizing her chance, immediately called Joe into the other room to discuss the postnup. Not 2 minutes later, Joe came storming back downstairs, furious. What the hell are these papers, Dad? Did you know about this? Michael, confused, replied, What papers? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's a postnup Mom made for Denise and me. It's absurd. Joe shot a glare at Mary. What's going on here? Mary, unfazed, defended herself. I'm protecting you, Joe. Denise lied to us all about her inheritance, and now she's going to drain you dry. She's a gold digger. You need to sign the postnup, divorce her, and find someone who'll actually contribute to this family. Joe's face was a mix of disbelief and anger. What are you talking about, Mom? Denise doesn't need to have a massive inheritance for us to be happy. What does her money have to do with anything? She's just like the women I've seen before, Mary insisted. She'll hurt you, Joe, and leave you broke. You need to protect yourself and get out of this marriage before it's too late. Joe exploded with rage. How could you say that? Denise is my wife. You've gone too far, Mom. This is insane. Michael backed him up, berating Mary for her behavior. It was the first time I'd ever seen Joe truly stand up to her, and it left me stunned. After the shouting match, Joe turned to me, still reeling. Why did you sign the postnup, Denise? You should have waited for me to come back. I would have never let this happen. Why didn't you tell me? I sighed, knowing the truth had to come out. Joe, I didn't want to sign it. I knew you wouldn't ask for something like this. But Mary wouldn't let me leave. She locked me in her room and wouldn't release me until I signed. She even grabbed my hand when I tried to refuse. Joe looked at me with disbelief, then pure anger, realizing just how far his mother had gone. I had no choice. I was forced to sign. As I explained what had happened, Joe and Michael listened in stunned silence. What unsettled them even more was that Mary didn't bother denying it. She looked almost smug, as if proud of what she'd done. My husband and father-in-law's faces darkened with fury. At first, they could barely believe it, until I revealed the marks on my arm. That's when they both turned on Mary. Mom, what have you done? How could you lay a hand on Denise? This is assault. Look at her arm. What made you think this was even remotely okay? Joe demanded, his voice trembling with anger. Why are you two attacking me? Mary shot back indignantly. I did what I had to for my son. I couldn't just stand by and let her take advantage of him. I was only looking out for his best interests. Joe shook his head in disbelief. Are you seriously saying you hurt my wife for my sake? How could you be so cold? Just because Denise isn't inheriting some fortune doesn't mean I'd ever leave her. I didn't marry her for money. But you promised us a better life. Joe, Mary retorted sharply. You said we'd be comfortable. How's that supposed to happen if you don't marry someone wealthy? Michael stepped in, his voice calmer but just as firm. Mary, what's gotten into you? Joe and Denise have done so much for all of us. Isn't that enough? Why are you so fixated on money? Mary crossed her arms, defiant. Because we can do better. Joe could easily marry someone rich with his position, and then we'd all be living the life we deserve. The tension exploded. Joe and Michael erupted at Mary, their voices rising in a heated argument. Realizing she was outnumbered and cornered, Mary quickly shifted tactics. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she began sobbing, playing the victim. I'm the bad guy now, am I? I was only trying to secure a future for all of us. You should be thanking me, and by the way, this house is as much mine as it is yours. Joe cut her off, his tone icy. You've got it all wrong, Mom. We're not freeloading here. Denise moved in to take care of everyone, and we're covering all the expenses. But don't worry, Denise and I will move out within 2 months. And we're done supporting you financially. Michael nodded in agreement. I'll be moving with them too. I can't stay here with someone who treats Denise like this. Mary's face twisted with disbelief. You'll struggle out there. You think you can make it without me? You'll come crawling back when you realize how hard it is financially. Joe stood tall, eyes unwavering. We'll be just fine. And Dad is welcome to come with us. We'll take care of him, but we're done with your greed. As Mary began to protest, Joe raised her hand to silence her. And you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but you need to hear it. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. Mary, there's no need for you to stress about our future. We're more than capable of taking care of ourselves. Mary sneered. Oh, really? With what? Your job? Don't make me laugh. Without my house, you'd have nothing. You're just a gold digger with no real means. I smiled, my words measured. Actually, that's not true. I'm quite well off. I have about $50 million in assets, though not all of it is liquid cash. Mary's jaw dropped. What are you talking about? You said there was no inheritance. Were you lying to us? I shrugged lightly. I didn't lie. I just didn't see the point in telling you everything. Frankly, your obsession with my finances got tiresome, so I teased you a little. I never imagined it would expose your true colors. Mary stood there, speechless, trying to process my words. Even Joe and Michael exchanged glances, caught off guard by my revelation. After a few moments, Mary forced a smile, her voice high-pitched and strained. Oh, Denise, you little trickster, I can't believe you were joking about that. You really had me going. If I'd known, none of this would have happened. But her forced laugh didn't fool anyone. We all knew that the damage was done. Mary, if I had revealed it was a joke earlier, you wouldn't have made that post, would you? You wouldn't have tried to sabotage my marriage. I suppose I got carried away, Denise, she admitted, her voice shaky. I shouldn't have been so harsh. I didn't even give you a chance to explain. That was incredibly rude of me. Look, I've torn up the post. It's done, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. No, Mary, you don't need to concern yourself with my inheritance any longer. I have no intention of maintaining any relationship with you. If Joe agrees to us moving out and cutting ties, then I'm all in. Denise, we've made our decision. Mom's behavior has shown how greedy she is, and I won't let her take advantage of you. We're moving out this month, and that's final. Dad is coming with us. Mary found herself cornered. We were all resolute about leaving. Joe and I had already begun looking for houses and found 3 options about an hour away. Within a month, we closed the deal and prepared to move in. Buying a house and relocating in that time frame was easy given our financial situation. Michael also decided to join us. He wanted our support as he navigated his divorce from Mary, which he had initiated that same month. Despite Mary's desperate pleas for forgiveness and tears over her predicament, we remained firm in our decision. Though she owned a house, she had no income and couldn't claim alimony since Michael relied on Joe for financial support. Neither of them qualified for it. In an ironic twist, Michael ended up with half ownership of Mary's house, as it was acquired during their marriage. This meant Mary had to sell the house since she couldn't afford to buy him out. It was oddly satisfying to watch her lose her claim to an inheritance while trying to take mine. The divorce process stretched over a year. With the judge ordering a separation, Mary struggled financially, selling the house quickly to support herself. She faced challenges finding a job, landing her in a tough situation. Once the divorce was finalized and Michael received his share, he moved into a small apartment to give us some space. Even after he left, we continued to provide him with financial support, simply because we could.